Now for this hour, we start with U.S. The Trump administration has issued a strong warning to all U.S. citizens in Iran to leave immediately as protests across the country intensify. The warning comes amid reports of violent crackdowns, road closures, and widespread internet blackouts in Iran. A security alert from the virtual U.S. embassy in Iran urges Americans to leave Iran now and to make plans that do not depend on U.S. government's help. The Federal Aviation Administration has issued special notices due to risks in civil aviation over Iran. U.S. travelers are advised to check FAA restrictions before flying in or near the country. Meanwhile, the administration of United States President Donald Trump continues to threaten Iran with military attacks, saying that Iran airstrikes are one of many options being explored as widespread protests put the Iranian government under growing pressure. Let's in fact listen into what the White House press secretary has shared.
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
The Trump administration has issued a strong warning to all U.S. citizens in Iran to leave immediately as protests across the country intensify. The warning comes amid reports of violent crackdowns, road closures, and widespread internet blackouts in Iran. A security alert from the virtual U.S. embassy in Iran urges Americans to leave Iran now and to make plans that do not depend on U.S. government's help. The Federal Aviation Administration has issued special notices due to risks in civil aviation over Iran. U.S. travelers are advised to check FAA restrictions before flying in or near the country. Meanwhile, the administration of United States President Donald Trump continues to threaten Iran with military attacks, saying that airstrikes are one of many options being explored as widespread protests put the Iranian government under growing pressure. The Trump administration has issued a strong warning to all U.S. citizens to Iran to leave immediately. Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now, looking at Iran's situation, we also know that U.S. has announced tariffs of 25% to any country doing trade with Tehran. Why do you think U.S. is suggesting such move right now?
Asuma, what we are seeing is a very significant effort by the United States and also by other international partners to ensure that there is a regime change, meaning there are three things that are happening. One is Trump has issued a statement that he will strike Iran if Iran uses force on the civilians, on the protesters, and that is happening right now. More than 1,000 Iranians have died because of direct fire by the Iranian authorities on the protesters. Second is, of course, the economic conditions have deteriorated very sharply in Iran, and Trump wants to sustain that by sanctioning any countries that are dealing with Iran, and also most recently putting those tariffs, increasing the tariffs of those countries dealing with Iran. So I think that Trump is using both national security measures and other measures to ensure that there is regime change in Iran. And it is very likely that it's a question of time that the Ayatollahs will fall in Iran and there will be a regime with far-reaching leaders in Tehran.
Right. And do you think that, this pressure from outside on countries, from other countries, do you think it is effective in any terms towards this current regime of Iran?
What is happening is that it is an internal protest. So when there's an internal factor that is driving the protest, if there is external support, it can enhance it. And that is what the international community is waiting for, so that with the increase in protest, there will be additional pressure from outside.
Right. But do you think, how do you analyze the effectiveness of this pressure? Even though inside pressure is there, but we have seen in the past, since internal pressure or domestic pressure hasn't been very effective towards this government. Do you think this time it would be different?
It will be different this time because the protests are very large compared to the 3 waves of protests we have seen in the past.
Are you okay, sir?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had a cough.
Don't worry. It's the season, yes. And so since, like in the beginning, we saw government being a little more open to talks with the protest leaders, and then they start saying that it's we'll give $7 per, I think, per month or something. And then what happened to those? Are the people still not satisfied with how the government is dealing with them?
I think the Iranian government has very limited options today because the currency has collapsed and there's no way of recovering. Tehran cannot recover and rebuild the economy without international cooperation.
Yes, right. And we know that China and Russia have only called to leave this internal affair of Iran alone, whereas many other countries have voiced their support. What's your analysis on China and Russia, only these 2 countries in particular, voicing their support for this current regime?
China and Russia is supporting Iran for geopolitical reasons, but their support is limited. Their support cannot sustain. In the face of the pressure that Iran is facing now, from internally and from externally.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, Professor Rohan Gunaratna. Thank you very much.